Good morning, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to First Edition. Oh, I've got a special guest this morning, someone that Turks and Caicos is waiting to hear from. Please help me say good morning to none other than our acting premier, the Honorable Jamel Robinson. Honorable Robinson, good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, Ms. Foreman. I'm not sure why they're waiting to hear from me, but I'm curious to know. I guess we'll drill down on that in a little bit, eh?
Lots of issues, sir. Lots of
All right,
issues.
no problem.
So let's start because we only have an hour, and we know when you and I get together, an hour is a few minutes. So for listeners who may not fully understand what it is, let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk about CARICOM. What type of membership is the Turks and Caicos applying for?
Okay, so the Turks and Caicos is applying for full membership of CARICOM. And just to be clear, for some persons, we are an associate member presently. So this isn't a completely new engagement with CARICOM. So it's a greater engagement we're looking for through full membership. And just to be clear, right off the bat, as a part of the negotiations, because it is a negotiation that will have to take place, the Turks and Caicos is not looking to sign on to the free movement of labor portion of the revised Chegaramish Treaty. So we, just like Bermuda, just like the BVI, we're all not agreeing to that portion, okay? Now, that brings other potential circumstances, because in the last meeting and some of the discussions on the side, the question was raised from full members that, okay, well, if you're not going to do the free full market, one market, single market, Caribbean single market economy, and with the free movement portion, then why would you want to be a full member, right? But we also have examples within CARICOM presently where, one, the Bahamas did not sign off onto that when they did the revise and was introducing that. So
really?
Bahamas is a member. You also have the fact that free movement throughout the community presently does not take place. Like, the closest thing that we have to that free movement is when 4 countries within CARICOM, it is Barbados, Belize, I believe St. Vincent, and Dominica. I could be wrong on this, but there were 4 that signed up to free movement within the community itself. So it isn't extended to all 15 full members. And then, of course, the other thing in terms of full membership, because there's a few anomalies within CARICOM itself, you have Montserrat, which is one of the 15 original full members, but Montserrat is a British overseas territory as well. So you have some anomalies that are there, and that doesn't refrain them from being full voting members. So full membership is what we are seeking.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Honorable Acting Premier. And that's a broad vision. So tell me, what does full membership actually mean for Turks and Caicos? What are the benefits?
Okay, so we're associate members now. We're looking to get full membership. So if you're thinking of membership as being a part of a club, if you're just an associate member or a part-time membership, you don't get all the benefits of the club.
No voting rights.
No voting rights. So we can participate in discussions, but we don't have a vote or a final say in what is taking place in these discussions that may be impacting us within the community. Also, although we are members of SEDEMA as a participating state, SEDEMA being the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, when aid is being funneled to and through SEDEMA for disaster resilience, disaster management, we don't get to fully participate in the utilization of those funds, particularly because we're British overseas territories, right? So we don't always get to. So they try to be creative to ensure that Turks and Caicos benefits from it, but we do not always get full benefit, particularly being a overseas territory. Also, an organization like CAFA, which is the Caribbean Public Health Agency, when they were trying to source vaccines from the open market during the pandemic, the Turks and Caicos wouldn't have been a beneficiary. Thankfully, we were able to get it through the UK,
Right.
right? So if in that scenario we were full members, we'd be able to participate on both ends, where if we needed some from the UK, they would have done it for us, as well as through CAFA. So full membership and decision-making rights happen because at the end of the day, our realities in the region are more closer to our neighbors than it would be to European issues, right? So being in a position to do that and to drive it home, because I know there are persons that are concerned, why about now, right? If nothing else, the last few years have taught me the value of having regional partners, right? And I said it in the House, I've said it in interviews before, and I will say it again. If it were not for the ability of our Premier, Honorable Charles Washington Mizik, to be able to pick up the phone and speak to Prime Minister Davis in 2022, and pick up the phone and speak to Prime Minister Holness in 2024, our crime situation would be completely different. In both instances, the Bahamas government, our closest neighbors, were able to send 30 plus tactical officers to help quell the rise in significant crime. And in this instance, and we're still utilizing those persons, the Jamaican government and Jamaican people were able to send 50 plus tactical officers to quench the crime situation presently that we were experiencing. And the results are there. We are talking about a drop from 2024 to 2025, which is one calendar year, of 43% in serious crimes. That is a direct benefit from one ability to be able to pick up the phone, right, and be able to do it. So those are some of the tangible benefits of being to the table. And lastly, right, we have to look at the fact that we are a growing nation, and we must put on our big boy pants and our big girl pants. CARICOM is the perfect training ground for any aspiring nation. It doesn't mean independence right now, but if we are thinking about it, if we want to be able to operate in a global community where we're going to be cutting deals and having significant negotiations, there's no better learning place than being at the table with Andrew Holness of Jamaica, Mia Motley of Barbados, Brave Davis of the Bahamas, Kamala Persad-Processor of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Terrence Drew, St. Kitts and Nevis, Roosevelt Scarrett, Dominica. And it's not to not call them honorable, because they're all honorables in this vein, but those are persons who have operated on the regional and world stage. And as a young developing nation, we're going to have to build ties, build alliances, because the world isn't about independence now, it's about interdependence. And what can we leverage as a small island developing state beyond our relationship with the United Kingdom, right? So these are our regional partners. We have similar histories, similar experiences, and even to the last thing, we even double back into security. We're not fully a part of the regional security system, right? Where we are able to access possibly soldiers, police persons, right? And this is something that basically three of the 5 overseas territories are pursuing right now. So again, Turks and Caicos, Bermuda, who was ahead of all of us, as well as the BVI now, and Cayman and Anguilla are observing how this process goes. And again, this isn't fait accompli, because at the end of it, whatever negotiations we do, the 15 permanent full members have to say yes.
That was good. So it's all about relationships in essence. Yeah. If you're just joining us, Turks and Caicos listeners, viewers, we're speaking to the acting premier, the Honorable Jamel Robinson, and we're getting all those answers to those questions that we've seen floating around in so many articles about CARICOM. So just to be clear, Honorable Acting Premier, you're saying that we're not signing on to the free labor movement. So does that mean that therefore we won't see any changes in immigration policy as it relates to our CARICOM membership?
Here's the thing, not to preempt any negotiated position, but essentially the free labor movement portion that exists right now, it speaks to specific skill sets. So there's literally a list of about 17 professions that are allowed to move freely. So it isn't even an open market. So it ain't free as you would have you believe. That's the first thing. But the reality is, within the Caribbean as a whole, we all need human resources to come from somewhere. So even if you're moving within, so perfect example, having a conversation with Honorable Holiness, he mentioned that Jamaica presently needs about 300,000 workers with certain skill sets. Now, his plan is to try and retrain a number of persons that are slightly outside of the labor market to be able to fill that, right? But if the Turks and Caicos, or if the rest of the region take 100,000 of Jamaica's skilled workers spread out with this free movement, then that's 400,000 that Honorable Holiness has to get.
Yeah.
And if Barbados loses 50,000, that's another 50,000 they have to find. So we're all needing the same thing. It's the skills and the capital, right? So this thought or this process, it isn't going to be a case where we're losing our ability to have our immigration and labor policies to determine who can access, which is why we're quickly working on finalizing the population policies to know what direction we want to go, to have access to the various markets, to ensure that we have protections in place for Turks and Caicos Islanders in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So these are the things that we will have to consider in finalizing a negotiated position. So while all three overseas territories will have a similar proposal in terms of what we're willing to sign off on, each of us will have our own tweak to it because they'll have to deal with our personal needs.
So, Honorable Minister, while we've seen a lot of negativity and the comments in the public domain has focused really on the labor movement, you've explained that. On the other hand, some argue that CARICOM could be beneficial and could help us with or bring economic and trade opportunities. From your perspective, how do you see that?
Well, that's inevitable, because even before CARICOM was established in 1973, our regional ties to Bahamas, DR, Haiti, Jamaica were well established. We've traded with these places for years and over time, right? So for us, what I would like us to do, particularly along these lines, rather than looking to the north always, we need to look to our south, our west, and our southeast, which is our regional partners. What can we get from these other countries that can bring the price of living down in terms of the food and the other resources, right? Because at the end of the day, in some instances, the very same products that we get from the U.S. originate from the Caribbean. It goes to the U.S., shipped in bulk, gets repackaged, relabeled to one of our favorite named goods, and sent back to us. And guess what? You just added, whether 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months of the lifespan of that particular product before it gets to us, when it could have just stopped off to us in the first instance. And the transportation, the regional transportation in terms of shipping and getting people and movement of goods, that's something that CARICOM is working on feverishly to be able to connect us. Right now, President Ali from Guyana, he's really trying to push the idea of Guyana being the kind of the Caribbean's breadbasket, where we can get as much stuff out of Guyana as possible. Other countries within the region are also able to produce. Now, clearly, we want to be able to produce at the very least at a subsistence level, so we can be cover ourselves in the event of shocks, which are happening right now across the world. But again, it's far easier to look to our regional counterparts. And a perfect example about what the region can do. When we were having all those challenges with the price of eggs, Minister Jolly, through a contact of his counterpart in the Bahamas, made contact with persons in the DR to try and to get that into our market. That's just one product, one item that hopefully it drove down the price of eggs. There are other examples that are available from the slightly bigger countries that have slightly better manufacturing presently, but the same quality of goods, if not better, because they're fresher, the point of origin that we can have access to. So CARICOM provides all those opportunities. And again, we might think of CARICOM as the 15 full members and the probably 6 associate members, because in addition to the 5 British overseas territories, you have CARISO as an associated member as well. But the opportunity for bilateral agreements are there, where you're directly talking to other country heads that might have something that you need. And it might not be, okay, this is what your mission is, but in conversations, you can just, hey, what about this? And they can tell you, and say, hey, I got to connect with this place, got to connect with the other place. And that's how you have opportunities. So partnerships and networking, that is one of the key networks for the TCI in the world, CARICOM.
And speaking to your point, Honorable Robinson, I was in Jamaica a few days ago and actually bought my tin of cheese for Easter. And I could have bought a couple at the price I got it here for.
Exactly. That's the point. So if that's a market, which it is every Easter, where what they have in Jamaica on a daily basis, then source it direct, as opposed to the through. So once we can get better shipping lines, better connection, and have the scale, because the scale of the buying power and the movement within the Caribbean is much more than what we can do as a 50, 60,000 person nation. So leveraging the scale of the wider Caribbean is something that we can do to bring down our cost of living as well.
Before we continue, Georgina Stiles just sent a message to please tell her acting premier good morning for her and to keep up the good work.
Good morning, Ms. Stiles. Good to hear from you.
Now, is there a timeline when we're realistically Turks and Caicos could see a response or some advancement in the process?
Well, essentially, there's two steps, right? Because one, we're looking to get the negotiated terms to CARICOM for sign off by the next meeting in July. So the 51st Heads of Government meeting. That's the timeline. That's very tight for us, but that's our push. At the very least, worst case scenario, a year from now. Worst case scenario, but we're pushing for the next meeting. Following the signing off and agreement of those terms, we also have, at the end of it, the United Kingdom government still has to sign off on the final iteration of that, because while we are pushing for full membership, we're all still overseas territory members or countries. So they will have the final say. So we're going to negotiate. We've been given the authority through our entrustment letter to be able to participate at these regional meetings in the way we can, save for national security as well as foreign affairs proper. But we can negotiate. We'll see what we end up negotiating in the very short term. So it's a tight time frame. We'll have further discussions as we develop it, as we put the terms together. We'll get community feedback. We're very soon going to set up the Ascension Committee that I spoke to previously. I believe we have a chairman that's about to be locked in right now, and we'll have the other team members. So look for them to be getting into the public to be able to get feedback on what this negotiated agreement should look like in the end.
I think you're reading my mind, because I was just going to ask, and I know you don't shy away from questions. One of the criticisms I saw was that there's been no public consultation. But I think you just answered that. So there will be.
Of course, it'll be added. And just to be clear, the idea of full membership of CARICOM didn't start when I took over this role as Minister of Immigration and Border Services with responsibility for regional affairs and CARICOM affairs, this has been in the making since 2022, 2023, right? It's more so internal, having internal dialogue and more clarity on this pathway that kind of delayed it or bringing it to the fore at this particular time. And of course, given that our sister territories, other overseas territories, there's no time like the present, because again, whatever they negotiate, we will negotiate something along the same lines, because we're all on board of the limiting the or removing the free movement element and all the other stuff with overseas territories. So our entrustment letters are similar, even though I believe ours has a little bit more flexibility than the others. But nevertheless, it's a case where we're going to follow through with this. And then hopefully, all things considered, the minister, the 15th full member minister council signs off, heads council signs off, as well as the UK signs off, and we'll become full members and being able to benefit fully of all that is on offer to our Caribbean region.
And finally, on this subject, Honorable Acting Premier, on this issue, how do you reassure the public that any integration with CARICOM will protect the interests of Turks and Caicos Islanders first?
Well, I'll put it to you like this, right? For the last 5 years, this Charles Washington Mizzick government has taken painstaking measures to empower Turks and Caicos Islanders, whether it's business license, whether it's real estate, whether it's the Turks and Caicos Islander Heritage Investment Policy. So many Turks and Caicos Islander focused empowerment activities. It would be foolhardy to invest all of that in the short term, in the immediacy, and we continue to do that type of stuff just to give it away.
Right.
Just to bust the country wide open, so to speak. That doesn't move. And again, within CARICOM, there are specific examples of the bespoke protocol, meaning with that being left out, which is the Bahamas. Within CARICOM, the majority of members have not fully started the free movement portion of the Caribbean single market economy segment of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, right? Because just like everybody, they have political considerations as well in their countries, which is likely why it hasn't happened, right? So all we're asking is, hey, level us up. Who knows? Out of this discussion, there might be a second tier of membership, which might not be full, but might not be associated, but might be a little bit more from these discussions. Who knows what the outcome? But the opportunity is there. The push and all of the overseas territories, we are working this through together to try and get a best outcome for all of us, right? So the push is there. So again, that's what we're looking for, that favorable outcome.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to switch gears. Let's talk about revenue collection,
No problem.
another topic that's been getting quite a bit of publication. Now, recently, there have been reports about courier companies owing government significant sums in customs or duty-related collections. Can you explain to the public what this issue is?
Okay, so it's just not couriers, it's all importers.
All importers.
That we've targeted.
Okay.
It's just not couriers. It just happened that a courier going to run to the media and put our business in the street and putting or causing to have put my staff members, or a staff member in particular, name in the road and got people attacking that person, which is unfair because they are just doing their duty as the instructions come from the top. They have to execute. So if you want to shoot an arrow at somebody, shoot it at me. My chest big enough, my shoulders big enough, my back broad enough. So don't target them, target me and the policymakers. That's the first thing. So over the last 2 years, right off the rip, we did our audit, right? We noted that a lot of entries were incomplete for couriers and importers. right? Last year, around the same time, literally when I walked through the door, we actually had to shut down a courier almost immediately. I won't call the name. It isn't the one that run to the media because this courier knew what to do. They engage, they talk, they were able to make a significant payment initially to be able to operate more while they try to get their house in order. They might have slipped back, who knows, but that's neither here nor there, right? So these enforcement actions happen from time to time. Now, subsequent to last year, and as a wider part of the Dragnet initiative, which is something that's being done through the Ministry of Finance, Premier's Office, Ministry of Immigration Border Services. So any entity that collects government money, we are trying to plug the hole. So this isn't just us. We happen to be at the forefront because we were pushed there, given the engagement of the media. But this is something that's happening across government because we want to collect government revenue so we can do stuff for the benefit of the people.
Right.
Right? So when the quote unquote proverbial hammer got dropped, and it isn't that it's dropped that they can't operate, by the way, whether it's couriers or importers, they're basically on a pay as you go type arrangement, i.e., we will release your goods when you pay our customs processing fee or pay our customs import duty. So, plus we have priority shipping, meaning if it's medicines, meats, perishables, those type of things, we have it where our team will assist in helping you to get that out. Also, we have the flexibility that we're allowing importers, so just not couriers, importers in general, to be able to say, okay, well, I got $20,000 I could pay for this shipment, but the cost is $40,000. Well, pay $20,000 of your most critical things that will allow you to clear, right? Make your money, and then you could clear the other $20,000 thereafter. But what we're not going to allow is you to be able to clear everything and just pay it to 20 and owe us to 20. We're not going to do that. Okay. Right? We also, since the introduction of this over the last 2 weeks, we have the couriers and others on regimented processes where they have to enter a number of outstanding every week to try to get their stuff up to date, make their payments. And I'm pleased to tell you that so far we've already collected over $200,000+ of the arrears. Wow. And we look for that to continue over time because, and again, this isn't a disrupt business. This isn't about slackness in our ministry or our departments. This is about leveraging the law that we have available to us to be able to collect the money for the people, because we can't do things unless we have the revenue to back it up.
So, Honorable Acting Premier, would you say what went wrong and led to these outstanding payments then?
Well, for me, nothing went wrong.
Okay.
Nothing went wrong. Could things have operated better? It always could operate better. But as I would have said in the House of Assembly, the law provides for the ability to go back. The law provides for the ability to have post-clearance audits done internally, i.e., okay, well, you bring a shipment in. You say, I have 20 goods in that shipment, and we get that from the weigh bill. We know 20 goods on that particular carrier. You inputted 15. You paid for it. We missed the 5. A year later, we go back and we pull that particular entry. We're like, hey, Ms. Foreman, you missed 5. So the law allows us to go back, and it allows us in the customs instance to go back for 5 years because you have to keep your records. In the instance of the Public Financial Management Ordinance, goes back 20 years for customs documents. Wow. And 7 years for invoices, bills, and stuff. So the idea is that we know we will miss something naturally. So it's not a fault to assign, right? It's just that it happens. It's human nature. There's nothing that's perfect. So it anticipates there'll be some slippage somewhere in there, so you'll be able to do it. And just to touch base on the courier stuff, about 8.64 million is collected annually. We had slippage at about 890,000. So we've collected at least roughly 91% of what is due to government on average, based on our estimates. So 9% slippage. Now, that's not bad. Now, we would like to get that down to 1%, right, through improvement in the systems, but we can't behave like we're just missing all of government's money. Like, we're in the process of updating our tariff profile as well, which will help because, the world has changed and we have more products. So we have to ensure that the way they're being codified is appropriate. So we're looking to upgrade our Asakuda system as well. We're looking to do all these things to narrow that 9% down to a 5 or 1% so we don't miss things, right? Because we want to collect as much money as that is owed to government.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, you might have missed quite a bit of the conversation, but we've got the Honorable Acting Premier here. We've heard about CARICOM, and now we're talking about revenue collection. So, Honorable Robinson, more broadly, how significant is customs and border revenue to the national economy?
Well, from the Ministry of Immigration and Border Services, essentially it is the most critical revenue generating ministry. We account for some 40% of all funds collected between import duty, customs processing fees, and work permit fees. Between those three, we average somewhere around $200+ million annually over the last several years. So it's very critical. And again, we have to make sure that we maximize that collection. So if we're not collecting the funds properly, then we have delays in roads being done because there's not enough money to do all the roads we need to do. We have delays in maybe the housing project because we don't have enough money for that. We maybe have delays in being able to build new school blocks or new health facilities, anything, or being able to have more funding available for social development or funding available to add more people to the financial assistance program for the seniors that are 70 and above that are making below $1,000. So all of that is connected. So if we are not doing our job, then the entirety of our expenditure programs might come into default. So we have to collect money for you, the people.
So what message would you send to importers who operate within our import system about compliance and accountability? What's your message to importers?
Well, my message to importers is you had a good run. You had a good run. But the law allows us to go back, and we're going to utilize the law. It's easier to pay up front, do all your entries proper, code them proper, and pay the right amount rather than you kind of carrying on business and missing it and having to find, quote unquote, find money, right? We don't get into the nitty gritty of person's operations, but particularly for couriers, we know that once you release an item to the customer, that means a certain portion of that would be for your courier services and a certain portion of that would be for import duty. So you don't collect your courier fees and not collect you don't collect your courier fees and not collect our import and customs processing duties and fees, right? So we know there is the accounting that the intake happened because otherwise the goods would be sitting up in your warehouse, right? So we know that happened just fundamentally. Now, whether it was coded right, that's another story. But just simply the entries, like get those entries up to date so we can, move forward with that. And again, it's a partnership because, again, we want to ensure that trade happens smoothly, efficiently, and honestly, right? Because we don't want a situation where in the HRTT situation where hotels and restaurants collected government taxes in the past, but they didn't remit it. Right? Because that's collectible. And while we might be in a position to write off penalties or interest rates as a government, we can't write off collected funds on behalf of the people of the country.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get in a place where you've collected funds and you've misappropriated it and do something. So work with us. We're willing to work with you, and I believe in very short order, things will be closer to normal in terms of the movement, but a bit more oversight and accountability to ensure that we're working well together.
Yeah. So you've talked to us about CARICOM, you've talked to us about revenue collection. Let's talk about digital borders. So governments around the world are moving toward digital border management systems. What does that concept mean in practical terms for Turks and Caicos?
So in practical terms for Turks and Caicos, the Digital Borders program will allow us to better manage our population movement in the country from an immigration/labor standpoint. You have 4 main parts of this program. The first one, e-gates, which will be at our main ports of entry, so all of the international ports where you land, you kind of go in and out. It reduces the amount of border force officers that you need. You basically go, you do your facial screening, or you touch your passport, you get in, you get out, very smooth. And then as a backup, with the introduction of biometrics as well, which is the second part, but still talking about the e-gates, you have various kiosks where you can go to border force officers. If we pull you out the line because of behavioral analysis, then you can further verify who you are. So that's a more comprehensive package to know who's in. So the desirables you get through very quickly, the non-desirables heat out. Now to the biometric side, we want to ensure that everybody who's supposed to be in the country is here legally. So as a part of the overall database system, and the immigration database system is the third portion, we will have everybody in our system that are non-citizens, right? In terms of their biometrics, they'll be in the system, but all residents will be in the system because you have to have some level of residence. So what that allows, when you see a police officer doing a stop, when you see Joint Operations Regiment, police, border forces doing stops in integration, or even forget the stops on the road, just going in, they will walk with their tablets and their devices, and you will be required to show some level of ID or some indication that you are supposed to be here.
Right.
And whether it's a QR code, whether it's a number that they can simply type in that will quickly pull up, who's Cheryl Francis Foreman? And then we will know. They will say, Bob's Francis niece next to your name. Joking. But that, you get the point, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You would have all your particulars,
They'll know who I am.
everything about you. And if you're not properly in our database, then you're someone that will be a suspect, as you probably entered illegal, right? So we'll have that ability of knowing who's here. And it'll get to the point where everybody will have to carry their ID, because this system is a part of the base that will make up National ID. So this is a sister project to the National ID project. So this has a portion of the information, and the other portion of the information will be in the Ministry of Home Affairs. So basically citizenship, status, and all of that. So we have all of the information related to immigration protocols, so work permits, residency permits, as well as persons who have permits that are spouses of Turks and Caicos Islanders. We'll have all of that information. The Ministry of Home Affairs will develop the other information in terms of the PRC holders, the BOTC holders, and the Turks and Caicos Island staff. So when those systems combine, that will be the basis of national identification. And then the last tab, because those are the resident population, everybody, one way or the other, will interface with the electronic travel authorization to close that loop. So either you're in our national ID database or immigration database, or you're a visitor.
Right.
So if you are from a country that requires visa, your electronic travel authorization would be your visa application, and we would have you in that system for that temporary time. So once you're on the road, we'll be able to say, hey, give me your number, your ETA number. You pull it up, boom, you're safe. If you're from a country that doesn't need a visa, much like the ASTA in the US, you still have to apply for ETA because we want to know who you are before you come into our country. So we could do our runs and our checks and background and make sure we don't red flag you. And you will have that number. So whether you're a visa carrying person or a person who doesn't need a visa to enter the country, you will have some type of status while you're here, whether it's your traditional residential status or your tourism status. So if you don't have one of those statuses going forward and we find you, we got you. So it's to manage the entirety of our immigration systems better. And the last piece, all of this stuff, particularly through the immigration management system, through all of those things, the applications will be completely online, completely advanced. So even though you hear me talking about the APS system, the application processing system, that's just a stopgap to do things a little bit faster. But when we're talking about moving online, completely online, everything will be more efficient, more security protected. So it's not just going to be, okay, well, information is brought to me and I could give a yes or no based on what I feel. The programming, the software, the algorithm will recommend whether or not these things should be offered, right? So it's going to be a far more secure system. And just for the timelines, because I know persons like timelines, right? This contract for Vision Box, which is the company that would have won the bid to do digital borders program, was signed December 30th, 2025. The time frame for it is 12 months to start seeing visible signs of the 4 prime areas on the ground. So maybe about 1.5 will be completed and operational within the first year, but 18 months for the entirety of the package to be done. And given that we are looking at our expansion of the international airport, right, with the arrival terminal where the e-gates will be located. Once that terminal is completed, we'll just move the e-gate system from the existing terminal and relocate it. So that is being integrated into the plan or the framework. So we know that it's coming. So when that happens, we can do a variation with the contract and just say, all right, well, charge us a little bit more to move it from this terminal arrival to the new terminal that's being set up.
Yeah. So, Honorable Robinson, we've seen visitors say it takes them so long to get to the beach when they arrive in Turks and Caicos. Will these systems reduce waiting times and improve the experience of arrival in Turks and Caicos?
I'll tell you this. Once this digital border system is in place, e-gates, the ETA, biometrics at the airport, immigration, the immigration management system. The longest time that a person will have to wait at the Howard Hamilton International Airport, at the Jakes McCartney International Airport, at the Norman B. Sanders International Airport will be as long as it takes for the taxi driver to come from the taxi hub to the front of the arrival exit door to pick them up, load them up, and go down the road. That's how long it's going to take.
For real?
Because they ain't going to be inside our terminals. That's how quick they're going to be moving through.
That sounds awesome.
I take that piece back. And how long it takes for the baggage people to unload their bags. I forget that part because we can't control that. We can't control that. But the other stuff, done.
Gone clear.
Gone clear.
So, Honorable Acting Premier, I think you mentioned this already, so maybe I'm going to have you repeat yourself. But how do you ensure that technological upgrades also protect data privacy and civil liberties?
Okay, so of course, with any introduction of new technology, you have to undergird it with policy and legislation. So we have the data protection policy that's passed, and it's a part of the overall immigration bill, which we're progressing towards Parliament, as well as other considerations. And the good part about having Vision Box, which is TAS Amadeus, to be able to introduce this technology in country, the suppliers have done this before. They've done it in Aruba. They've done it in a number of countries through the region. So we can source their experience to ensure that all of the data protection concerns are addressed. So it isn't a case where we are hoping that all of these concerns be addressed, because this is a new entrant into the market. This is this is a company that's done it already, and of course, all countries would have similar challenges or similar issues in terms of data protection, etc. So I think all that's covered by our policy, as well as the expertise of the company that we've contracted to be able to advise us on how best we can do that.
So you mentioned all these systems. Sounds really good, and like we're going to be far advanced. Will they also help reduce fraud and document irregularities?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I was saying in terms of the ETA system, the Electronic Travel Authorization, as well as the immigration management system, all of these will have the security apparatus attached to it, right? And particularly when we do get to the national ID, because it doesn't mean we will completely stop people from trying to enter the country illegally, right? While we're making improvements to reduce that amount of persons. The key to this system is when you're on or in country, unless you are properly regulated or unless you are properly supposed to be in the country, you're not safe.
Right.
We know there's persons who have fake work permits. You might have a fake TCI status.
Yeah.
Once national ID is introduced, we'll be able to say, all right, look at your card, scan the QR code. Is this you? So whatever little system or little QR code, you wouldn't be able to mimic it well enough to say, all right, well, you're in our system. You will just come up empty. And if you come up empty, when we ask you for your ID, you're in trouble. Right? So all of these systems, we're building towards something, right? It isn't there yet. And we're having stopgap measures to try to improve the security situation on the ground. But we are building towards something. So Digital Borders is building towards something to feed into national ID. National ID is building towards something to feed into e-government. And e-government will revolutionize how we do business generally. But all of these first steps has to be done first.
Okay, so immigration remains one of the most discussed topics in the country. What would you say, as Minister with portfolio responsibility for immigration, are the biggest pressures currently facing the immigration system?
Well, I think the biggest pressure from the immigration system is the genuine need for a labor force. It's a genuine need for a labor force, right? Now, this also competes with our priority as a government to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders get the first dibs on employment opportunities. So you have two pressures pushing at each other, all at the same time. So we have to balance the need of the economy, because we're the ones signing off on the various hotel expansions, the various development agreements, the various labor protocols or immigration protocols attached to these development agreements, while also trying to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders have an opportunity. My belief has always been it's no issue with overall numbers, because the type of economy we have, whether we scale it back by 50% right now, we still wouldn't have enough Turks and Caicos Islanders to fill every role in our economy. That's just a mathematical reality. However, from a training succession standpoint, it's our job as a government to better police the protocols to ensure that today I'm a waiter, tomorrow I'm a maitre d', the day after that I'm an assistant manager of food and beverage, the day after that I'm the manager. So within a 5 to 10 year span, I move from waiter. With the opportunity and the right experience, I'm able to move up. That's the experience we want for Turks and Caicos Islanders, right? To be able to move up. And again, my view, I think the Turks and Caicos Islander is the best possible worker you can have in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Exactly. Yep.
That's a fact.
Yep.
People might try throw some shade otherwise, but that's my truest belief. And I believe once given the opportunity, Turks and Caicos Islanders will always step up to the plate and deliver for you, for their families, and for the country itself.
Honorable Acting Premier, let me give you an opportunity to brag. Looking back over the last year or so, what would you say are the key achievements of the Ministry of Immigration and Border Services?
Well, some of the key achievements, right, and all of it ain't 100% achieved, but we've made significant progress on it, right? First thing, and we don't speak about this much, the introduction of a formula for service charge, which we have to do some reviews in short order to confirm that it is operating in the way it was intended. There is clarity. There is a formula that allows the workers, the primary workers, to get the majority of the service charge being generated, which is a multi-million-dollar set of money. So we just have to ensure that it's operating as intended. In the event that we need to tweak it a little bit to make it more palatable, to ensure that workers, particularly Turks and Caicos Islanders, get their fair share. That's the first thing. It's been a long year, but we are about to land, hopefully by May, the repeal and replace immigration bill. That's going to revolutionize how we operate immigration and labor in the Turks and Caicos going into the future. It has a lot of great things in it, and it will be the base for which we build on. We finally, in the last year, signed off on the Digital Borders Program project.
Right.
And as outlined, those 4 key pillars that we're going to be introducing over the next 18 months is going to revolutionize how we operate. So the immigration legislation is the basis for the operation, but the Digital Borders Program is the operational aspects of it. So those 3 things right off the rip are some of the things that's what I'm proud of delivering, or having delivered, and we are delivering as a government for the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Just quickly, Honorable Acting Premier, we're out of time, but one of our viewers online is asking the question about the ability for importers submitting documents online and making the process faster. Is that something that's being considered?
So what we're doing, right, and this will come with the upgrade in our systems, right? That is a function of Asakuda, I believe, as well. So we're getting the newest version of Asakuda to be able to enable those types of things. And again, everything is trying to be digitized and updated. So we're working on a number of things. I don't normally always tell in advance what we're doing, but we are engaged with our various vendors to be able to hear their needs, to see where we can improve, figure out what systems are available to accommodate that. And just to double back full circle with the CARICOM conversation, if we engage with our regional partners who might be more advanced or has to deal with even more traffic than we do, we could find out, hey, Honorable so-and-so, what are you all doing with this?
Yeah.
Or Minister of Customs Immigration down in BVI, what is your, you know what I mean? So all of these are the opportunities to learn from each other and pull to make things better. So that's definitely something that we would be a part of moving forward, because we want to make everything a bit more smoother.
Right. And Honorable Robinson, just take 60 seconds. We know you've been in public service for quite some time. From a young man, you've been serving country and people. But what motivates you in public service? And now particularly in a ministry that sits at the front line of national sovereignty and economic development. What motivates you to serve?
Well, I think at the core is what I would say is my purpose, which is to help people. So I think in every role that I've had the privilege to be a part of, so as a public servant myself, literally, my 8 years in government, in various roles in disaster management, working in the private sector as well, post-government life, at Sun Oil as the manager there, providing fuel in the economy, doing real estate, which helped me with the real estate bill, as well as selling insurance. Those things were to help people, being a quasi-activist or an activist and community servant as the CARICOM Youth Ambassador, as well as the Civil Service Association President. All of those things were to help people. So Minister of Health, in the middle of the pandemic, okay, how can we save lives and ensure people are safe? Minister of PPID, infrastructure, all right, how can we generate more roads? How can we push the issue of housing moving forward? And Minister of Immigration, particularly, how can we secure our sovereignty in our country? How can we ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders first isn't just a tagline, but we back it up with the policy initiatives to try and strengthen that? How do we work with all other ministries to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders have the right tools to take advantage of the opportunities? Because across this country, we are experiencing a boom, and those that aren't booming will be booming. This morning I was looking in the East Harbor chat, which is South Caicos for persons who don't know what East Harbor is. And there was a picture about 5 to 6 Lear jets sitting up on the Norman B. Saunders International Airport.
Wow.
When was the last time you saw 5 to 6 Lear jets sitting up on that tarmac? That shows that there's a lot of activity happening in South Caicos. So for South Caicos people, we want to ensure you are a part of that growth. The Premier announced for Grand Turk the $177 million project, and with the introduction of a new cruise line at the State of the State. Like, that's gonna send GT through the roof.
So
There's activities happening down in North Caicos with the expansion of the airport and those projects. That'll influence Middle Caicos, and of course, Providenciales. We've had to stop, pause some of the development that's coming through so our infrastructure could catch up. Last year, before we demitted office and then got reelected, Solke had 2 significant projects on the books for significant developments to happen in Solke. So literally every island is positioned to grow significantly in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's our job to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders benefit at the ground up, because the best time to invest in the stock market is at the beginning, when the rates are the lowest, so you can have the greatest benefit. So start investing, start seizing opportunities, and pool your resources. That helps.
Well, you know, I still got cue cards left, which means I still have questions left, but we're
Next
out of
time.
time. So it also means that you'll have to come back. But I
Yes.
think you've answered our key questions about CARICOM, the revenue collection, and digital borders, because those were 3 items that have been circulating widely lately. So, Honorable Acting Premier, thank you so very much for coming. Continue to do the job that you do. Continue to serve country and fellow man with the passion that you do. We appreciate your service, sir, and we look forward to you coming back.
Thank you.
This has been First Edition. We'll see you next week.